It has been exactly 1 year since we did a Dormammu GBR tier list, and since then, we've gotten like 40 new tier 4s and a bunch new supports, so I thought now would be the perfect time to revisit this. It hasn't gotten any harder. If anything, it's gotten easier. So we're going to add in a new category here, slow/hard. Slow or hard, because it's pretty straightforward. Characters like Adam Warlock, characters like, Professor X, they can do it. Characters like, let's see here, Carnage, wherever he is, they can do it, but they're either slow at it or they're hard in the sense that it's hard to play as them, not that they are hard. But let's just knock out all of the supports first. We have a bunch of supports like Spider-Woman, obviously not as good as someone like Shuri. Agent Venom is great. At this point, I would only put Green Goblin in as a lead/support. Mysterio's an excellent support. Groot's basically only a support for Gamora and Star-Lord, but still existing. Riri, very underrated, one of the best supports. Kraven, almost non-existent, but he's there. Medusa for Black Bolt exclusively, basically. She-Hulk's leadership does work, so you can use her as a support. Chasm for Spider-Man. Sif, the paywall cringe Squirrel Girl that's cutting off here for Thanos. Valkyrie is still amazing for sure. Wong, he's getting a new zombie uniform, but I assume he still has the support that they talked about it, so he's still technically a support. Yondu, fantastic support, easily top 5. Beta Ray Bill is a support, but he's also a good character, so we're actually going to put him up in S tier, but he is also technically a support, particularly if you don't have him at tier 4. Enchantress is a solid support there as well. You have Taskmaster support, you have Proxima, a lot of supports, right? You've got Ebony, who I am going to put as a support only on the Universal Day versus the Universal version of Dormammu, but that one is probably the one where you may need the most speed buffs because you're not going to get a type advantage versus Universals. Obviously, Coulson with another top 5 support. Same with Nick Fury. Mystique, I'm also going to put in the support category, even though I know she can be a DPS. Sin is an amazing support, but unfortunately, paywall. Ronan is an excellent support, top tier. Same with Satana, exclusively for elemental damage types, but she's huge. Angela is good as well. So is Polaris and Wave. So is Morgan Le Fay, also paywall, but still. Storm is, I would say, only useful really for most players versus weak typing, but she's also technically a support, but she's very, very good. And then that basic for weak typing, and that basically does it for the supports here. A lot of supports for sure. There are still some others, like Namor technically is a support because he has a buff. Namor's actually the only character that you can be at the same time. You can be a support and a DPS, because you're playing him as a DPS and then use his 5th skill, and it applies to all allies, which means it also applies to your teammates and it buffs them. So some one-shot combos or like very quick clear combos do rely on Namor. So he's sort of like a pseudo support, but sure, we'll put him in here versus weak typing. Now let's get to the actual rankings here. I'm going to drop Black Bolt, who last year was an S tier. We're going to drop him down to, for now, low A tier, possibly B tier, just because he's losing a step here. Ant-Man, I would say, is probably slow or hard. Black Bolt, same sort of thing here. Same thing with Black Widow. It's just going to take way too long. Blue Dragon is strong, but I don't think she is, used very much. Cable is okay, but I would only really use him versus weak typing. Cap is going to be okay, but I'd only use against weak typing. Just keep in mind for Cap and Wong and Doctor Strange, they're all getting a uniform very, very soon, so this may change. Doctor Strange last year was S tier. I don't think he deserves to be S tier. I really only use him versus weak typing, so that is where I am going to put him with Storm here. Dr. Octopus, same thing. It's kind of weak typing only situation. Gamora, I would say probably weak typing only. Jean is still absolutely busted. That has not changed one bit. Luna is kind of overrated for GBR. I would honestly put her, she's very good for weak typing, but she's pretty good. But other than that, I think she's not very good. Magneto, I'd probably say, again, just weak typing. I wouldn't want to use him on the speed day for sure, or the blast day, because he's going to lose a step. Miles is quite nice. I think he's very fast, man. Miles is like super duper fast. Yeah, he definitely deserves a place here. Odin is also quite fast. Shadow Shell, I would only use against weak typing, to be honest with you, and I don't rate her very highly. Sharon is a little bit difficult to play, but she blows, well, difficult to play in the sense that you just have to like wait a second to see where the attack's going to be and then position yourself to accumulate, but she still blows stuff up. So she's, you know, if you can play with her, she's easily up here, right? If you can't play with her, she's down here. So it really is a little bit of like user, it's relied on user, you know, error or kind of gameplay. Spider-Gwen, I think she's definitely lost a step. Not that fast. I don't know why we had her. Oh, no, we had her in weak typing last time anyways. Okay. Yeah, still weak typing for sure, around like a Shadow Shell type thing. Moon Knight at this point, I would just say he's just slow, to be honest. Same thing with Spider-Man, just slow unless you have like a brilliant rage on him, which is just way too expensive. Venom, yeah, I'd say he's slow. Same thing with Star-Lord's good against weak typing, I guess. But most of these characters I would just put in, I would honestly just, me personally, I would put them in the slow category. And honestly, I will just put them in the slow category. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, maybe with like a Brilliant Destruction Star-Lord, you can get a little bit better out of him. But for now, I'd say this is kind of more balanced. I don't see anybody using any of these characters in GBR. Thor is pretty good for GBR. He's quite fast. I'd say he's probably a step faster than Odin. Maybe a step slower, actually, because he doesn't have the tier 4 that does damage. The Farmer Thanos is still pretty good, although I don't see him very often. I'd say he probably deserves to be somewhere around here. Oh, White Fox is a top tier support. Forgot to add her there, my bad. Apocalypse is pretty bad for GBR, so we're going to put him here in slow or hard. Deadpool can actually be quite good, but I would only really seriously use him versus weak typing. Gwenpool is also quite nice. I would definitely put her in the B tier, although I'm tempted to only use her versus weak typing. She's pretty good. Hulkbuster's terrible. War Machine is pretty bad. I think he's honestly better off as a support, to be honest. I know that Hulkbuster also has a support, but it's not quite as good. Hela can be used. I think she is usable, but I don't know. She doesn't really have weak typing, so you can't really put her there. But I don't really want to put her up here because she's not as good as like Thanos. She really only hits with the tier 3. So I think she kind of has to go in slow or hard to use. Iron Man's still very, very strong for GBR. I probably want to put him up here. Yeah, I think he's very, very good for GBR because of that passive kicking in. Psylocke, I wasn't really impressed with her. Honestly, I feel like I would only really use her on weak typing days. Wolverine, I think, is absolutely like, solid, maybe underrated for GBR. Obviously, you have to have a PvE build on him, so that might be a little bit too expensive for people, but I think he deserves to be there. X-23, I think, was pretty shit for GBR. So yeah, we're going to put her up here with Hela. Captain Marvel, super underrated for GBR. I honestly think she's very, very good for GBR. You just never see her because very few people ended up tier 4ing her. Doom is terrible for GBR. I'm going to put him here, even though he's universal. Ghost Rider is absolutely beyond goated. I would honestly put him ahead of Sharon. He's just hit so hard. He has iframe ignore on his main damage skill, so he can hit Dormammu even when he's doing phases or he's doing like intermittent attacks. Gladiator, not great. I would only really use him versus weak typing, and even then, I'm not really like jazzed about using Gladiator. Hulk was pretty good, mainly because he's like idiot-proof. Not to say that anyone is an idiot, but basically you can play Hulk super badly. You can just like spam buttons. He has a super easy rotation now. He's so tanky, he's not going to die, so he's very, very nice in that sense. Human Torch was also pretty good. I don't know if he's good enough to go above weak typing. I think he is. We will put him there for now. Invisible Woman, I would only really use against weak typing, although she does hit pretty hard. For GBR, I was surprised. Mr. Fantastic, I would say, is a little too slow for me, but for some people, he might jump into weak typing. Rogue was pretty good for me, but also, again, it's kind of like a weak typing only situation where I would only really use her against the Blast Day. Scarlet's very good. Not as maybe Black Bolt does need to be up here. And finally, we come to Sentry, who I think a lot of people would expect to be slow, but I actually think Sentry's pretty good. No one is going to build him for well, most people are not going to build him for PV, but he's actually kind of underrated for PV. He hits really hard. He's super tanky. He has iframe ignores on multiple skills. He's actually quite nice. And so I think this is maybe a little bit more of a skewed list in the sense of like, I tried to keep it more of a triangle where the top is very, very limited to characters. Honestly, I think you could argue that Sharon doesn't even deserve to be S+ tier because in general, since the Dormammu cycles his typing every day, characters who aren't universal have such a huge disadvantage because, one of the days of the week, well, 2 of the days of the week, Sharon doesn't deal any bonus damage, right? Which is universal days and blast days. And then on speed day, she actually deals like minus 20% or something like that. So it's actually like her performance fluctuates so much. I'm not saying Sharon's bad, but this goes for every character that doesn't use universal. The day where they have a damage bonus of up to 50 or 60%, and the day where they have the damage reduction of whatever 20%, that's a fluctuation in damage percentage of almost 100, right? Because it's minus 20 and plus 60. That's an 80. That's a gap of 80, which is insane. So if you do rebalance it that way, I think, and if you do like take that into consideration, you know, if you're gonna be looking to play these characters every single day in GBR, I honestly think you could make a case to put Captain Marvel up, and then you might even be able to make a case to bring Beta Ray Bill up. And the reason why I say Beta Ray Bill specifically is because he has almost as much damage as Thor and Odin, but then he's also a lead and he's also a support. So he provides more flexibility. Odin does have the lead, Thor has the self lead, but really Beta Ray Bill only, you know, is the only one with the support, and then he has the lead that can apply to Jean. He has the lead that can apply to Ghost Rider. So while you're building him up and he's still transcended but not tier 4, you have that option. So this is certainly another way to rebalance the list. I don't think this is necessarily wrong, but I think some people will still see a big gap between Jean, Ghost Rider, and then everybody else. They'll be like, oh, you can't put Jean in the same category as Captain Marvel because Jean just like blows it up in 30 seconds. I can totally understand that. Jean has, you know, revive as well, so you can play badly or make mistakes. You can't really make mistakes with these two. They're not going to heal up the way that Ghost Rider just tanks it with the immortality and Jean tanks it with the revive. So I could also understand a ranking like this. I totally could. I would still probably put some of these characters ahead of Odin and Thor just because they're so fast on their days. It kind of makes up for it, and especially at tier 380, Miles is insanely good. Like, he's still so strong. Same with Sharon. But yeah, so that's how the list you know, beats out there. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the list. I think GBR is still a pretty important game mode, despite the fact that it's essentially a solved game mode at this point. I do wish the devs would do a little bit more to, you know, make it a bit more of a puzzle that we solve now and then. But at the same time, it's nice to see that we have some consistent winners here that are going to bang out high tier damage, you know, every day, so that you know what you're investing in. Because GBR after World Boss Legend is the most clear-cut example of like, okay, I tier 4 this character, they clear this for me every day, it saves me a minute of time, and so it's like this really easy way to see your return on investment and get that back, you know, daily when you play. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.